84 degrees and a record to 37 this morning. Pittsburgh doing Pittsburgh things here in the month of March. Madness around us in the sports world. But for this episode of Mic Drop here, made possible by the Believe Network, available everywhere you get your podcasts and played on Sirius XM. Going to keep it in Pittsburgh and talk about the team that's about to start one of the most hyped seasons for them in a while, and that's the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are days away from opening day and a season of expectations, actually, for Pittsburgh fans. Certainly more than in recent years. Again, Mike Asti here, Mic Drop, and I am going to welcome in Noah Hiles of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette to have this conversation, talk about what's going on around the Pirates, how spring training was, Konnor Griffin, the expectations, and if they're really, really valid, and what he's expecting out of this season. He's been covering the team and following the team for a while. Noah, how are you, man? You enjoying this gloomy day in Pittsburgh after hopefully enjoying more of being outside a day ago?
Yeah, I'm actually still in Florida. My flight leaves.
You still are in Florida? Okay.
Yeah, my flight leaves tonight at like 8 p.m. That's what I've been running around trying to like get packed up. So I've enjoyed the nice Florida weather for sure, Mike. It's been really nice being down here.
Yeah, I'm jealous of you. Didn't make it down there this year, of course. You then have been able to enjoy warm weather every single day for a while. Yes. You've been down there, but you're going to return to doom and gloom. It is Gotham City right now this morning.
That's great.
After we set a record for Pittsburgh, I believe it was the warmest temperature at this late in March. I think I read this since 1929.
Wow.
And then you are going to bring more of the exact opposite. So maybe so thank you very much, Noah. But yeah, this is not Florida anymore, but who knows if we'll get more of the warmth again as we get close to opening day and then the home opener in Pittsburgh. Again, Noah Hiles of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And Noah, we were going to record this a little earlier in the morning as you are scrambling to as now I learned, to come back to Pittsburgh, and you had a talk with General Manager Ben Cherington. Before we fully get into everything that was kind of on tap for me here, did anything come out of that's interesting from that conversation? I mean, again, there's expectations this year. Fans are clearly polarized on their thoughts of him and pressure even on him to have this be a big year.
Yeah, no, nothing huge to come out of it. Just kind of some explanations behind the final roster, which is set. Talked about Carmen Majinski being the last starter in that rotation, how he'll be utilized. Top 100 prospect Hunter Barco makes the team in the bullpen, giving them another lefty out of the pen. You'll see him used in a role similar to what we saw Braxton Ashcraft and Mike Burrows and Bubba Chandler pitch out of last year when they all first came up. So just some explanations there, some talk on, Jared Triolo, why he was the starting shortstop, why Nick York and Billy Cook made the team out of camp, why Konnor Griffin didn't make the team out of camp. Interesting stuff, but I wouldn't say anything groundbreaking by any means.
All right. Noah Hiles there out of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Mike Asti, Mic Drop here. You mentioned Konnor Griffin, so we'll also go there. He does start down in the minors. He's not going to start with the big league club. Some were hoping maybe that would be the case. Not too surprising at this result, and I know you also wrote about some contract talks of an extension already for him. What can you tell us about why he didn't start with the big club, your thoughts on if that's the right decision and what you would have done, Noah Hiles, and then anything else you can give us on the contract negotiation talks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect Konnor Griffin to be there very long because, I mean, the Pirates are – I've been told by multiple sources the Pirates are very interested in getting PPI reward for Konnor Griffin, which for those who don't know – if Konnor Griffin plays a full year of Major League service time this year as his rookie year, the Pirates will be awarded a draft pick. But in order to get a full year of service time, he needs to be up with the Major League club by April 9th. So if you look at the calendar, there's not a lot of days for him to be in Indianapolis to meet that deadline. There were some extension talks prior to the decision to send him down to AAA. The way those talks went essentially was like, you know what, like, they offered him probably a lower number than he's worth, and they were probably aware of that. But it was, hey, if you sign this, we can live without getting a draft pick. for this. And if you don't sign it, you haven't necessarily played your way onto this team. You had an inconsistent spring. Sure. So they'll take him down to AAA for a little bit. They'll continue talking about the contract extension. He's probably going to be up here the first week of April. And they'd like to probably have that deal finalized by the time he gets up. So, like I said, don't expect him to be there very long. They even talked about it with the roster construction as is. Very rarely, especially in a small market like this, do you see the 26 remain the 26 for the first whole month of the season. Sure. I expect there to be additional moves being made. And I think we could very well see Konnor Griffin playing shortstop for this team probably before the first homestand of the year comes to a close.
Yeah, and part of the hype around this team this year, unlike recent seasons, there were moves made in the offseason to win now. There were, and you couldn't say that a year ago. So a lot is going to depend on trying to have this team win now while also looking to the future. Do you think most of the decision for him to start down in the minors was about his career, the contract, all of that, or did any of it have to do with his inconsistent play? Because I will tell you, I saw the tweet come through and show it to a colleague when I was covering an NCAA tournament game, and their first reaction was, well, he had an inconsistent spring. And I was, yes, true. Is that why, though?
He didn't do himself any favors. I'll say that. But I mean, like, if he does we'll see, right? If he's promoted in the first week of April, right? I'm not sure what 1 week in AAA really could have taught him. Aside from, there's some good steakhouses in Indianapolis, right?
100%. 100%.
Yeah, that's really all there is to learn from that little of a time in AAA. But, they'll justify it how they want to justify it. But if it's truly about learning and his development, then the PPI doesn't matter, and he'll be up when he's ready. And that will probably mean going past that. Now, it's to my understanding that there's a pretty good chance we'll see him before April 9th. So make your own inferences on that.
Yeah, that's very, very fair. Again, Noah Hiles of the Post-Gazette here joining me on Mic Drop, talking the Pirates, talking Konnor Griffin. Now, this, I think, is important for fans to hear, what I'm about to ask now, because obviously there's a lot of hype around this team. There's a lot of hype around him nationally, locally, and it's valid so far, but we know nothing about, as you know, any baseball prospect until they actually get in the show. Yeah. There are some that have called him the best Pirates prospect for the franchise since Barry Bonds. Mm-hmm. But as you also know, Barry Bonds didn't win Rookie of the Year. He wasn't Barry Bonds that we later saw his rookie season. Whenever he comes up again, assuming it is soon, knowing his age, knowing his skill level, you've seen him now in person. What do you think is a reasonable expectation for him? And, what do you think even the Pirates are expecting that if he doesn't get to a certain level, they then would be concerned, I guess, about the future? No one's cutting bait 1 year in, but what do you think is reasonable from the management and even for fans to expect from him this year?
Yeah, I think his floor right now as a 19-year-old is probably a stronger, faster version of Jared Triolo, right? Okay. I mean, he's going to be a very capable defender at shortstop, and that's going to allow Triolo, who will be the opening day shortstop, to move over to third. And so you have two gold glove caliber defenders on the left side of your infield. So that's a huge box. That's a lot of value right there. He's faster. He'll probably be the best base stealer on the team. So, I mean, I don't know how often he'll be getting on base, obviously, because he's going to, figuring out the approach at 19 years old. That's going to be the challenge, right? But when he's on, he'll be able to steal bases. He'll be able to go first to third very quick. And then raw power, right? So you look at it's like Jared Triolo in the field with a little bit more offensive value, just because, I mean, the batting average, it might not be great his first rookie season, his rookie season. The on-base percentage, same thing. He had trouble hitting fastballs this spring. That's not a great sign. But if you bat him if he is in your bottom third of your order, you have a pretty good order, because, there's always just that chance where he can run into one because of his size. He's still a guy, even right now, that can hit 15 home runs if you give him 500 plate appearances. And they didn't have a lot of those guys on the team last year, Mike. Right. So even if paired with a batting average around 210, 220, which I'm not saying that will be the case, but that could be the case for a 19-year-old. I don't think that that's a pessimistic evaluation on my end. But let's just say he does hit 220 with 15 home runs, steals 25 to 30 bases, and plays Gold Glove caliber defense at shortstop. You're not getting that from anyone else on the roster, even Triolo, I think.
Yeah.
So that's a 2.5 WAR season probably from your shortstop who's still not able to drink a beer yet legally in the United States. That's pretty good.
Right, and years away. It's not even like it won't even be next year.
Yeah, like he's got 2 more birthdays before he can do that. So.
Right, like there's plenty of runway with this for sure. And there's reason though for the optimism and for the hype, and it's not even just local. The national media have fed into this. He's been hyped for a while, and he's also coming to Pittsburgh at the appropriate time for the franchise because now they're in a better position than they would have been a year ago, 2 years ago, certainly before Paul Skeens. He now could be coming into maybe a better infrastructure, maybe a better lineup around him, which is important. Somebody trying to read pitches. Somebody else could help him out and tell him what's coming, which maybe wouldn't have been the case a couple of years ago. All of that is important. You can't steal first. So that's going to be the issue of getting there, even if once he gets there, he can steal bases. But if he brings defense and can steal bases whenever he does get there, I mean, the bar isn't that high for that position, unfortunately, even for a team trying to win now. Maybe they don't have as much wiggle room because there are going to be another end of the fan base that if he is hurting the team, even at his age, they then might be upset because there's pressure on winning now. But,
if he's hurting the team, then he shouldn't be there. But like you look at it, I mean, the options are Nick Gonzalez and Jared Triolo.
Right.
I think at worst, he's just as good of a hitter as Nick Gonzalez, and he's just as good of a fielder at shortstop as Jared Triolo. And you get that all in one with probably a little bit more speed and power.
Yeah.
So that's why you do it, and I think what you mentioned there, Mike, in your last, whatever you were saying, it was relevant in the sense where if they didn't make these other moves in the offseason, you're depending on this guy to be Superman.
Right.
And he's not ready to be Superman yet. Right. And we saw what happens when you do that. When O'Neal Cruz came up and they were asking him to be the best hitter on the team pretty much since he's arrived, and Henry Davis and all of these other guys, where now they can go up to Konnor and be like, look, man, we need you to be our 8th hitter. We need you to be our 9th hitter. And if you can be something more than that, that's great. But you're 19, going to turn 20 years old this season.
Yeah.
Just focus on learning the game at the major league level. This is good for his long-term development. It's good to be introduced to Major League Baseball with some high stakes. He's not coming up in the midst of a rebuild. He's coming up in a season where they're supposed to make the playoffs. That's how they view it. So
I almost was about to say he's coming up with a little bit of the pressure off, but I stopped myself because not really when it's him and knowing how the media market is, but in a reality sense, it shouldn't be as high on him, at least to carry the franchise. I mean, Key Brian Hayes, O'Neal Cruz, all these guys, they came up and it was save us.
Yes.
There's not much else to save us. You're going to do it. Some fed into it and it created more of a pressure cooker. Yeah. Konnor Griffin doesn't have to be more than what you mentioned for those numbers. For the team to be able to win, there's enough there that maybe they could contend even if he is not great, not in rookie of the year contention. Obviously, if he's hurting the team and they're winning, or if he's hurting the team and they're losing and they think that's a problem, maybe they will make some other decision on him. But yeah, it makes sense right now for sure. Noah Hiles, Mike Asti here, Mike Drop with Believe and Sirius XM. What do you think the ceiling is? Realistically, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Pick a guy. I mean, like his career ceiling is the best player in the sport. I mean, one of them. Like, I mean, I mean, a guy who profiles like Mike Trout, Bobby Witt Jr. I've had major league scouts compare him to A-Rod, Cal Ripken Jr. So I mean, that's the ceiling. But I mean, for this year, I don't know. I mean, if he comes up,
ceiling for this year,
you've got to contextualize as well, like what situation he's walking into. This is a team that had one guy that was an above average hitter in Major League Baseball last year. Yeah. So if he can even just have a league average OPS, that is an astounding success for him. And that's a huge win for the organization.
Yeah.
Because this year, whatever you get from Konnor Griffin is more than likely going to be one of the worst years of his career because he's only 19, 20 years old. He hasn't seen a single pitch above AA. So if it's the better it is, the more fans should be excited. And I really don't think, like, if he comes up here and struggles and has to go back down, like, I don't think that's a reason to panic. A-Rod couldn't figure it out his first year in the major leagues. Mike Trout couldn't figure it out. Like they needed to go up and down, and I mean Jeter too. So like there's plenty of precedent of young guys not being able to instantly figure out this game. Maybe he does. I think it's a bigger problem for the Pirates if he doesn't, just because it would require them to probably find another everyday shortstop. But his ceiling, I don't know. I don't know what his ceiling is, because I mean, I wouldn't have assumed at this time last year we'd be having this conversation. So who knows what kind of conversation we're having a year from now.
I wouldn't have assumed we'd have this conversation about him or the team. Like I wouldn't have assumed that the tenor of the conversation would have been this at all. You're probably bewildered with the positivity when you appear on shows here days ahead of opening day, and would never have predicted it a year ago. Noah Hiles of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette here joining me on Mic Drop. And yeah, that's all very, very fair. And I believe A-Rod didn't come up even this early right away to start that first season.
He didn't start the season in the major leagues, no. So,
yeah, because he was on that 95 Mariners team, but that was he came up like the end of that year, and then that next season was his first one. So this is still kind of unprecedented. And, you know, again, they're not as great as there have been of young players who's been hyped that eventually got going. There are only a couple of the top draft picks that are in the Hall of Fame right now. Like, it's not a guarantee to have those top 5, top 10 picks, have those legendary careers. And he doesn't even have to be a Hall of Famer for this team maybe to have a solid stretch the next 3 to 5 years, if he's even close to being, you know, what he could progress into in this rookie year, Hall of Fame or not, should definitely be his worst season. I think the positive for him is just give them enough production for the franchise to be able to sell him as he's the guy next year. It doesn't have to be rookie of the year contention. None of that.
Right.
Again, I don't think the bar is too high, at least going into next year at his age for sure. Now, based on him, based on everything else they did in the offseason, based on Paul Skeens, talk about a guy getting better every single year. Hard to top what he's done his first 2 years. He has everything under the sun already on his resume except for team success. Do you think the expectations around the team locally, nationally, that they could have a winning season, contend for a wild card spot, quickly turn around and be that feel-good story that there often is around Major League Baseball? And it's been a long time since it's the Pirates, but it's always somebody. Is there enough to legitimately say it could be the Pirates? Are those expectations and that hype valid, or are people drinking the Kool-Aid too early for you?
No, I think the word "could" is a good way to use it. I don't think this is a guarantee, but I do think if some things go their way, they're definitely going to be in that conversation. I mean, there's just they added a lot of high floor guys this offseason, like Lau and O'Hearn and Ozuna. Like, those are guys that are going to be average at worst, probably. And those
players have won before. These are from winning organizations.
Two of those guys are still in the thick of their primes. That's all good to add. But it's going to come down to, I mean, what does O'Neal Cruz do? What does Brian Reynolds do? What does Konnor Griffin do? What do young arms like Braxton Ashcraft and Jared Jones and Bubba Chandler and Hunter Barco look like? I mean, there's a lot of ifs here, but for the first time in a while, these ifs are probably more optimistic than, if Tommy Pham, if a 38-year-old Andrew McCutchen, you feel better with the ifs being the names attached to these ones.
Yeah, I had your colleague at the PG, Paul Zeiss, on a recent show, and that's basically what he said, that in past years, there was no if that he could legitimately offer without feeling like a fool. But now there's at least ifs that if go the right way, success could happen for the collective team, not even just the individual people predicting, if this for Skeens, he can win this award, but the team's still going to suck. Like that was last year. This year now, if this occurs, and you could even see Skeens having a win-loss record that's well above 500 and maybe having a 20-win season, as insane as that sounds. He won a Cy Young Award with 10, but if everything else goes well, that should add wins to him. He had a lot of games that he didn't win that he certainly pitched well enough to win. Noah Hiles here of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Now, you mentioned Ozuna, and I'm also going to get to Brian Reynolds and O'Neal Cruz because they're very, very important here before I let you go. But Ozuna, a solid ad for sure, but he's entering his Pirates tenure, unfortunately, as you know, in a little bit of a polarizing atmosphere looming over him because the belief among the fan base is that they selected him instead of Andrew McCutchen. Whether or not that's fully fair to say is not going to change the mind of the perception of the fan base. It's been a couple years since he's been the guy the Pirates are hoping they are getting, but they certainly could get back to that. If he gets back to that, he would be an upgrade to what McCutchen's been in recent years, and expect him to be this season. If he does not, then who knows? How do you feel about Ozuna from what you've seen since he's come over, about what you think he will do this year, and if he can get back to where he was a few years ago with the Braves? And then where do you also stand on not bringing McCutchen back, choosing Ozuna instead, that opinion out there, if there was a way to have them both together, McCutchen now with the Rangers, how that whole situation was even handled? Because at the end of the day, you have Ozuna, McCutchen's not there, but clearly, and you even know this because Kutch used you as kind of a social media conduit last year. Clearly, it does not take anyone fully in the know to realize McCutchen is not thrilled with how his Pirates career ended.
Yeah.
Even if Ozuna would have a great year, I don't think that would improve the feelings of Andrew McCutchen within himself. So where do you stand?
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, I don't think it'd be reasonable to expect Marcell Ozuna to have a year like he had 2 years ago. I mean, I don't think I don't think that club's in his bag anymore. But even if he does what he did last year, Mike, I mean, he had 22 home runs last year. That would have led the team. That's more than worth what you're paying him to do. So if he can be an above league average hitter, if he can drive in 70 to 90 runs and hit 20 plus home runs, Andrew McCutchen hasn't done that. Like, I mean, he did that a couple of years ago, but last year he was a below league average hitter. Ozuna was the better player. Ozuna also just does more from that DH spot. I just think that it was worth trying something different. And while it's a tough ending to the McCutchen era here in Pittsburgh, era 2.0, I should say, it is also worth noting, I mean, he got he had 3 years here for fans to see him achieve milestones, play, I mean, they were in the mix in 23 and 24 for a little bit. But they couldn't get done. And I guess the question is, like, do you want a better team or do you want another year of Andrew McCutchen? Because
that's what I've been trying to tell people. Yeah.
So that's what they wanted. And they did that. And, I don't know if it was the best move to complement the other moves they made this offseason, but if they were going to pick a full-time DH, this was the right one to pick, I think. So that's where I stand on that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And if you would have the same team and the same expectations and the same offseason and the same roster as a year ago or 2 years ago, Noah, I could then see the argument kind of where you were going. I could then see the argument where fans are kind of saying, okay, if you're not really going to win, let McCutchen have one last year in the sun. Give him some ABs. He is better defensively. He at least has that. Try it out. You're not going to win anyway. But this is happening in a year where they've had a better offseason. The most negative Pirate fan or media member around is saying that they could maybe have a chance, that there are ifs out there. We've seen that from fans and media members who normally are not high on this team or would laugh at that question. They're not laughing this year. So if that's your scenario, I think it's fair to, whether it's a slight upgrade or not, the best play. The best are there. The best is who you bring in. And in terms of who they reasonably could pay and reasonably find, Ozuna is a find add. Why do you think, though, as the only pushback is, so Ozuna is 35. He had 39 home runs 2 years ago and 40 the year before. We're not talking 5 years ago. Even if he just does what he did last year, it could lead the team. It could be better than McCutchen for sure. He was a 1.6 baseball reference WAR, a BWAR, and McCutchen was like in the single digits there below 1. He was like 0.4 or something last time I looked. But why do you think it's totally out of the question that Ozuna could go back to what he was with Atlanta a couple years ago or when he was an all-star? It's not like it was that long ago.
No, it's not.
You said the bat's not in him anymore, though. We're talking 2 years? The bat's not in you anymore?
I mean, the swing speed went down a lot last year. Okay. And I mean, typically when guys get injured in their mid-30s, they don't have better seasons for that. So,
yeah, I
mean, it could happen. I mean, at some point, guys just stop having 300 batting average, 30 home run seasons, and typically that happens in one's career. So, I mean, it could. I would probably bet against that. I think he's capable of doing more than what he did last year. But even if he doesn't, if it's similar production, that's still an upgrade. That's
Yeah, I mean, he could go. Is it possible he goes from 22 to 30 instead of 22 to 40?
I mean, yeah, anything's possible. I don't know. Like, yeah,
Reasonably speaking, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think 30 would be considered a very good year for him.
I mean, that would be an insane year for the Pirates and what they've had. And they haven't had a 40 home run hitter in a long time. This is a franchise that once employed the all-time home run king, didn't have a 40 home run hitting season with him. So the Pirates, it's been a long time since Stargell. So if he would do that, obviously he would go down in Pirates history. I'm not necessarily predicting that, but to go from what he did last year to 2 years ago, maybe there's a middle ground, and a middle ground would really elevate the overall team. Just adding some pop and a guy that could threaten in the lineup, I think would even be something that's nice, even if the home run total ends up being similar. But yeah, it's reasonable to expect probably more of last year than a couple years ago. And Kutch was a 0.1 BWAR with the Pirates. People do forget. They look at, okay, better defensively. The counting numbers are similar, but yeah, he was a below average hitter for sure. Do you think there's a way to repair that relationship? Where do you think that relationship exists right now? I mean, obviously he's not thrilled. I mean, even the cryptic tweets, it does not take a rocket scientist to know he didn't like it with how it was handled. From what you can tell us and what you know, how do you feel about how it was handled overall?
There needs to be better communication. Probably on the Pirates end, but I think part of that comes with not knowing what your budget is. I mean, I feel like they came up with Ozuna money toward the end that they probably didn't have laying around early on. And if that Ozuna money didn't show up, then McCutchen was the backup plan. But I think that's what it comes down to. The Pirates didn't know exactly, like, you can't have that talk at the end of last season because no one knew if they're coming back last season, right?
Right.
Barrington can't have that conversation with him because he's not sure. And I don't know if that was the time to even have that talk. Like, McCutchen was not in a good space at the end of last year. So it's unfortunate how it played out. I'm sure it'll get fixed over time, probably just not anytime soon.
Yeah, he needs to finish playing. He needs to put that behind him and realize his playing career is over whenever that is, and he's still trying to play right now. And I'm sure he'll eventually, for Cooperstown or not, we can have that debate another day. But I think, I don't think he's going to get there, but he's going to certainly be in the Pirates Hall of Fame at some point and definitely deserving of that. And I do think that, even if the feelings are there, someone will sit him down and he'll want to be in that. He's still important to Pittsburgh. I think someone will be able to convince him, hey, this will be important to a whole generation of the fan base and the city for you to have a plaque up there on that wall. Even if you're kind of still displeasured, you got to do it. So I think that'll all happen. I think everyone would agree the communication was handled poorly. Maybe not surprised on how it was handled either. But, there's also the end that not many people are really considering here. If they would have went to him when they found the Ozuna money, hypothetically, and they didn't do this, but hypothetically, if they would have went to him and said, okay, we have this money, we think Ozuna is better for us to win right now. You clearly want to play and do kind of a farewell tour. We can put you on the team for lower money, lower value. You're basically a utility bench player. You'll play once a week, get some at-bats as a pinch hitter. Maybe you'll play defense and Ozuna will just be the DH. Who knows? I don't know if that's a guarantee. Correct me if I'm wrong. The McCutchen would have accepted that or been thrilled on that conversation. Right. It almost sounds like he would have said, I don't think so. That's hurting my legacy, because he was public in saying that he thought he should have started Skeens Day, that when there's big crowds there, he should have played.
Yeah.
I mean, they might say that's not in the interest of winning now. So your thought of where you are and how you should be handled doesn't meet how we're going to handle you. That might not have been best when you think about it for the future. That might have caused more of a rift.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's a point now where, he's going to be mad for a little bit. It'll probably be resolved whenever all parties are no longer in their active roles. I think it'll have to be when McCutchen retires. It'll have to be when Charrington and Williams are no longer around. It's just is what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
But he's not here anymore.
Yeah, really, it is. I mean, after this, if I have you on again, I'm not going to ask it again.
Yeah.
But we're in front of the season. Had to ask here again. Noah Hiles with the Post-Gazette here, joining me on Mic Drop. And this is kind of an important question, so I'll get you out of here on this. Maybe we'll get a prediction from you.
Okay.
Who do you think is more important? You alluded to this earlier, but who is more important to this team having success? Brian Reynolds getting anything near when he hit 300 4 years ago, or just getting back to what the expectations were? It's been less than that for now several years in a row. Or O'Neal Cruz providing more power and getting back to where his hype initially was. Both have disappointed based on what they've done with the Pirates for a couple years now, but they need more from both. Who is more important to get close to what they were?
I'd probably say Cruz, just because Cruz has such a higher ceiling, right? Like, he can do so much more. And because O'Neal Cruz also hasn't really come close to being the best version of himself, where I think we've seen the best of Brian Reynolds. Like, we've seen what he can do. I think his ceiling is what we've seen in his all-star years, and getting back to that should be the target for Brian Reynolds this season. Whereas for Cruz, it's got to be more. It's got to be more than what we've seen. And if O'Neal Cruz plays to his potential, this is a playoff team, because his potential is physically, his potential is a 30 home run, 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases, great plays in the field. But until that comes to fruition, it's very hard to predict that to happen. But if that does happen, in addition to O'Hearn and Lau and Ozuna and Konnor Griffin and the pitching staff and whatever you get from Brian Reynolds, it's a pretty good team now. So
yeah.
O'Neal Cruz can be what you think O'Neal Cruz is capable of being. This is a really good team.
Yeah, and the peak of O'Neal Cruz so far in his career, I would imagine, would be 2022. He was top 10 in Rookie of the Year voting, 17 home runs, but only in 87 games. That would have put him on more of a pace to do what you're saying.
Yeah.
That was obviously very early in his career. The next couple of years when he played more, didn't get there. The expectation is even nationally that he could do more. I mean, they're putting him in the home run derby. The vibe is he can do more, and if he does more and this team wins, he's also one you can point to that could become a star outside of Pittsburgh. I mean, when you hit the long ball and your team's winning, especially at a small market, people will love you all over. It has not yet happened for him, but if it does, as we just talked about with Ozuna, if O'Neal Cruz gets to 30 and Ozuna does exactly what he did a year ago and only gives you 20, 21, 22, together, put them together, and you got the home run total you're kind of looking for, which you haven't been close to in the past. So maybe that's more reasonable, that maybe there's a better chance that O'Neal Cruz can hit a little bit of an upswing, which wouldn't even fully be where you want him to be forever, than maybe Ozuna doing it. We will see. And I kind of do fall in line with the opinion that Brian Reynolds is kind of just who he is at this point. We're several years into this. He did hit 300 a few years ago. That is far more the aberration than the norm from what we've seen from him. But he just is who he is. And if this team is what it could be in all those ifs going well, and he's the fifth best player, then they can be a wild card possibility. If you need him to elevate and do more and do what he did a few years ago, that probably is just not going to happen. If I can get any type of prediction from you here as we're in front of opening day, you have the columnist hat on as well these days. So what do you think is going to happen? What do you think this team is going to do? What are you going to predict?
I'll say right now, 80 and 82 is my record prediction. Now, that could be better, but it's going to take help. I think they're going to be around a similar spot as to where they were at the deadline in 2024. A couple games over 500, a couple games out of the wild card race, but still very much in the thick of things.
Yeah.
And depending on the moves that they make midseason is going to be what lifts this team over the hump or what leads it to fall back down again. So that's kind of how I see this team as currently constructed.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair. And do you believe that if they're in that spot, not way above it, but in that spot, they will be legit buyers of the deadline?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't know how you can't be. After the way they've gone about so many different things this offseason, I think they would have to be a little bit more aggressive than they normally are. Yeah,
and I'm not, I don't think anyone's asking them to go ahead and get the top person available that they're going to have to pay in the future. But there's a difference between being a buyer than what we've seen, even when they're fringe close to that. And I do think that if they would be in that spot and not at least buy this time, which I believe they will too, that would be one way to lose the optimistic fans that are hanging around. I mean, that would definitely lose the hype that's been infused entering this season. Noah, I appreciate the time for sure. Welcome back to Pittsburgh when you get here. And sorry you have to leave Florida, but the baseball season's about to start, so the weather should stay consistent pretty soon. Appreciate the time, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Yep. Noah Hiles of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Known him for a while, doing great things there, and who knows where his future will take him. Everybody knows the tenure at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette has an expiration date on it right now with what's going on at the PG, but he is still kicking butt and taking names and doing great work for sure, and not going to shy away from throwing his opinion out there, which I like. Having people on shows got to have their opinion, not just fully reporting. So Noah does a great job. Happy to have him on. Hope to have him on again as they get towards the season. And a lot of hype around this team. I do think it's legit. They had a better offseason. It is an offseason that leads you to believe they're in win now mode. Win now mode doesn't have to be 100 games, but there are opportunities to have 80 plus wins. And if you're finishing out with 82 to 84 wins, a little bit above what Noah predicted, but even at where he is, you're in the thick of things all year. You're relevant going into the Steelers starting training camp, which is what you want here. Because if you're not, people are going to tune you off and not care. Even people that are checked in all year with the Pirates, they're going to tune you off and look at the Steelers and say you're out of it. You didn't live up to expectations. A lot of what ifs here, but a lot of these ifs could go the right way. And if they do, this team should at least be there. And that's about where it is to be a wild card contender in this era, at least for the second wild card spot. You don't have to win 90 games to get that spot from what we've seen in recent years. And then once you get in, you don't know, because once you get in, you have the best pitcher in baseball, or certainly in your league, if you want to argue with Scooble, in Paul Skeens. And you should imagine at that point, as long as you give run support, that he can get you a win in every series he's pitching in. That would be a great first pitcher to throw out there and give fits to the opponent that you're facing there in that series. That's all a benefit. They're almost built in a way to have some success in the playoffs finally. And of course, the franchise hasn't won an actual series since 79 from that World Series for a myriad of reasons, even though there's been brief playoff appearances and playoff runs. Not enough of them, of course, over the last 30 plus years. But still, there are what ifs here that if go the right way, this team can win. There are what ifs here that going the right way is reasonable to maybe expect. There are what ifs here that if go the wrong way, you're not going to win and going to have no shot. But there's also what ifs here that if only half of them go well, you have a shot to be better. You don't have to have them all go well. You don't have to have Ozuna be 40 homers or 35 homers and Cruz do the same, and then Reynolds hit 300 and Skeens win 20 and Konnor Griffin be rookie of the year. I mean, what if maybe you get some of those? But if a couple of them happen, you're in a far better position than you would have been a year ago. If none of them occur, you're probably in trouble and maybe the same as a year ago, or maybe you're still a little bit better because the roster is just flat out better. And there's no signs of Skeens getting any worse. Getting another pitcher to be behind him is obviously very, very important. And that's what Noah mentioned as well. So I appreciate the time from Noah. Great insight for sure. Noah's still writing for the Post-Gazette as we speak. You can find his work there. You can also find this show everywhere you get your podcast. Just search Mic Drop in the podcast directory. You can find it on the Believe Network main page and also available on SiriusXM. That'll do it for this edition of Mic Drop. And now, days in front of opening day here in 2026, there's optimism, or some of it, around the Pittsburgh Pirates. Crazier times have existed here in the Steel City. We will see now how long this stays.